am the fire. I am burning brighter, roaring like a storm. And I am the one I've been waiting for.
Phoenix Nation, how you doing? It's your girl Jade Feinics here. I'm back. The color wheel is spinning. Scarlett and Lavender are with me. What's up, girl?
Hello.
What's up, bitches?
Wait, so if it's Pride Month, should I be going, hey, girl, hey?
Yes.
Okay.
Hey, oh my God, my mom's
Yes.
manager at the big chain store she works at is openly gay and literally goes, "Hey, girl," to her like all the time.
Like, hey,
Yes,
girl, hey.
queen.
Yes, and honestly, we love this for him.
We do.
I love this for him,
And
too.
honestly,
So-
love this for my mom. She's having a great time there.
Good.
Fuck yeah, she should. Deserved. Well deserved. But, you know, we're back. It's Gay Pride Month. Why not? I mean, it's Gay Pride for us year round because
Yeah.
we're gay.
Woohoo!
Guess what? I don't
so much
I
more
don't
fun.
Stop being queer once June ends.
Nope.
No, you just can't perceive me anymore. I disappear into the ether.
Well, you know, as we said before, it is Gay Pride Month. And honestly, instead of giving your money to giant corporate fucking machinons that literally do not give a shit about actual gay people, you can give your money directly to us, 3 bisexual females
Please.
and female presenting.
Yes.
I could always use extra money for my McDonald's addiction.
I mean, valid, because, you know, sponsor us or send us a little tip or something, because, you know, it's Gay Pride, and also it is Scarlett's birthday month, so
Yes. Support me.
they deserve a treat.
I agree.
I think I do deserve treats.
I do not disagree with you.
I think I deserve treats.
I
Treat
think
me.
you do. I really do. I think-
Sponsor us. Treat me
Yeah,
for my birthday month. Do it for the twin that I ate in the womb.
it's true. Call it memorial fund.
Memorial fund for the twin.
A
I ate in the
memorial
womb
fund for
to
the
get
twin
here.
for the twin that just didn't have a fucking chance in hell.
Listen, for all you know, I did all y'all a favor.
Yeah, probably.
Maybe.
No offense.
No,
I don't
probably
know. I don't know. The evil twin may have won.
do. Oh no! I thought we established that I am in fact the evil twin.
I don't disagree.
Yeah. I am the evil twin.
are.
And if we wonder what the good twin was like, no, you don't.
No, it was delicious. That's what it was.
Yeah, she was good to eat.
Sauteed.
She was good to eat.
Nom, 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 nom.
Yeah.
But we're here. It's Pride Month, and we were talking about yet another subject that is near and dear to our hearts, and that is gay stereotyping.
Yeah.
Which, you know, I know a lot of our listeners would probably be like, oh my God, are they talking about yet another gay topic? Yes, it's fucking Pride Month. Fuck you.
Welcome to June.
It's pride.
If you
We'll
don't
talk
like
about
it.
You could like silence. Yeah.
Leave.
No,
Exactly.
no, definitely listen, but still, silent.
Shh. Let us speak. Maybe
My
you'll come out
sweet-
with some good perspective.
My sweet summer child, you may learn something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Let
So,
us be educational.
I mean, honestly, like, gay stereotypes have been around for as long as gays have been around.
Yeah.
Of course.
All right, and then obviously we're going back and they're more prevalent now as we are getting much more representation. We're allowed to be out and about and loud and proud. I mean,
Right.
where years ago you were killed for
Yeah.
it, like in ancient times, not so ancient times, you were murdered for being gay.
No,
Yeah.
it's true. It's unfortunately there are still some places in the present.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't like it. But it's like it kind of sucks mostly because what it is a lot of these stereotypes, while they are for good reason because they're not untrue, stereotypes are stereotypes for a reason.
Exactly.
Right.
But to generalize that stereotype is what we're going to be talking about today, and why it's probably best that you don't do that.
Yeah.
Generalizing a stereotype for every single queer person that you come across is not okay.
No, exactly. Because everybody is different. Everybody, like, you know, it's kind of like how zebras have their own unique, like, pattern on every single one of them. It's the same thing. treat every human being like they're an individual human being, please
Yeah.
and thanks.
I mean, I know lots of people that'll sit there and say, "You're not a snowflake. You're not an individual snowflake." Bitch,
Emotional, damn it.
I'm not only a snowflake, I am a goddamn fucking avalanche. So suck my left titty and make the right one jealous.
Hey, yo.
Bing bong.
Hey, yo.
Yo, take me to dinner.
For
I'm
real
sorry,
though.
fucking
Bing
side
bong.
talk kills me. Just, the best one is Steve Jobs did not die for this.
No, he did not. No, he did not. But honestly, let's just jump into it, and we're gonna cover the stereotypes. We're doing this in sections. We're gonna be doing this where gay men,
Yes.
stereotypes. Then we're gonna go into lesbian women and women presenting, because that's trans is its own category in this.
Yes.
But lesbians, and then we're gonna talk about bisexuals. And obviously, we'll talk about transsexuals and everything else in between. Plus, we may even touch on a little racism
Yeah.
amongst, So there's your trigger warning. Again, if you don't like it, I don't know what to tell you. I'm sorry, not sorry. Like, this is the Phoenix Gate. This is how we do things. The color wheel is spinning, and I'm ready to fucking really rip into this topic.
Hell yeah, let's go.
All right, so.
Spinning right round, baby, right round. Let's go.
Thank you for that.
So, okay, question for you both. When someone says gay man, what is the first thing that pops into your head?
I mean, this just also goes to show how ingrained this show has become in society. But The Last of Us, the episode with Bill and Frank.
Okay.
For some reason, that's just what immediately popped in my head.
Okay, fair, but
Yeah.
again, when you think of a gay person, what do you think of?
Trying to think.
What about you, Lavender? While Scarlett takes a moment to boot the brain pan.
I think it changes over time. So if I were to say what I thought initially, I mean, I'm going to start this right now. I fully believe that Pooh and Piglet were a gay couple as a child.
I agree.
I thought they were very much married. But, growing up, talking about the representation that I did see, which we're going to dive into this a little later, is Glee was my main focal point of what gay people looked like. Because I grew up in a very small Roman Catholic town. I went to Catholic school most of my life. It was not very talked about, let alone it was very taboo to bring it up, which is ridiculous. But, it just kind of was the nature of it. So when I thought of a gay person growing up, I automatically thought of Kurt Hummel in Glee.
Okay. Yeah, I'll help you guys out. Because, obviously we have a little trouble because we are gay coded.
Yeah.
So here we go. If you saw a man that had a feminine speaking tone or lisp, would you think he's straight or gay?
I mean, again, the stereotypes are there for, do
Yeah.
kind of exist for a reason. And you know what, not to my uncle, I have an uncle who is out and proud. Mm-hmm. He does, he is quite effeminate, does have, the speaking voice, the lisp.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to put him on blast, but again, that's how he is.
Right.
Yeah,
I love my uncle.
Let's take your personal experiences out the
Yeah.
factor. If a guy comes up to you and starts talking to you like that,
Gay.
you'd say they were gay.
I'm gonna be honest, that's
Yeah.
automatic. It's kind of why I brought up Kurt Hummel, because while I love Chris Colfer, he's wonderful. That's how they had him play Kurt. So that's what I would think about in my head was that high lispy voice, dressed very effeminate, was always wearing the suit and bow tie.
Yeah.
Chris Colfer, you looked adorable.
Well,
Huge fan.
fashion and effeminacy have long been seen as stereotypes of
So that's what I
Yeah.
always thought of, because that was my one focal point of contact growing up was Kurt Hummel and Glee.
Yeah, okay, so if you're with a dude that enjoys shopping, gay or straight?
I would automatically think gay.
Yeah.
Okay, if somebody talked to you and they had that limp wrist where it's and they're just flapping their hand around, gay, straight, or Italian?
Italian.
Hey!
That's Italian.
Okay, so here's the thing about these stereotypes, as we've discussed. They're not wrong, but it's not everyone.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Gay men are often equated interchangeably with heterosexual women, by heterocentric mainstream, and they are frequently stereotyped as being effeminate, despite the fact that gender expression, gender identity, and sexual orientation are widely accepted to be distinct from each other.
Correct.
Yes.
So the flaming queen is the big stereotype for a gay man.
Oh, 100%.
And while I know tons of flaming queens, I also do know a bunch of twinks that may not necessarily, show up as a twink, but they are. And also I know a lot of bears.
Yeah.
Like a lot of, and again, these are usually large, hairy men referred to as bears.
Yes.
And then you have,
I'd still pick those bears.
the effeminate gay men that are, Twinkies, but it is what it is. Or another stereotype is the show queen, where these are the ones that are overly dramatic and campy and artistic and theatrical.
Yeah.
Drag queens.
Exactly. Like your drag queens.
Right. So these are typical stereotypes for gay men. Are they inaccurate? No. But do they literally sit there and span the entirety of the gay man spectrum?
Absolutely not.
There you go.
Yeah.
Absolutely not. I know.
Dang.
Because that's the other thing. Everybody varies so much. And I think the problem has become because heteronormative society can view that as feminine qualities.
Well, they call it gaydar,
Exactly.
which pisses me off because it's like there's a running joke amongst the gays, and I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, it's okay.
There's a running joke amongst us. Oh, my gaydar goes off when I'm around that person. That's literally because we recognize our own.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the heteronormative society says, oh, well, if that person's dressed this way, or they do that thing, or they're whatever, my gaydar goes off for them. That means they're gay. And 9 times out of 10, believe it or not, I grew up with a bunch of kids that were slightly effeminate. You know, they weren't big, tough kids on the block, Were they gay? I don't know. I lost touch with them, so maybe they came out, maybe they didn't.
Yeah.
But I do know one kid that I went to high school with was characterized throughout the entire fucking time we were in high school as gay. He's married with 3 kids.
Yeah.
Not gay, just effeminate. Just in touch with his, just not a man's man, I guess.
Well,
which
that's the
is
other
stupid.
thing too. I feel like a lot of times, like, because of these stereotypes, you will have, like straight men who or straight presenting men because, not to, because there are people who maybe, bisexual or, of another orientation who are in relationships that look straight from the outside and haven't otherwise disclosed. Anyway, disclaimer out of the way.
Yeah.
But like you could be a man who appears straight but takes care of themselves.
Metrosexual.
Exactly. And
Raj from the Big Bang Theory.
Oh, yeah. I
haven't
love
seen The Big Bang Theory.
I
I'm sorry.
love The Big Bang
But
Theory.
like, I mean, I'm just telling, like, this, like, I'm saying, like, from personal experience, where, like, just, like, people are not, I'm not saying that this is, like, what I buy into, but people I work with who are of an older generation.
Boomers.
Yeah, exactly. They'll buy into this whole, like, oh, that guy, he, dresses up more, he presents himself a certain way, he cleans up more, he's got to be gay. And it's like, no, I think he just likes to take care of himself and groom himself well.
Yeah.
The dude has a wife. I would think, I mean,
Right.
you never know, but
No, exactly.
he seems to be really in love with his wife. He just likes to take care of himself.
Hello. I mean, God forbid men are not slobs.
Yeah, wild
Right?
concept. And that's kind of like what I was starting to get at. It's easier for heteronormative society to look at what they consider femme-presenting traits and automatically be like, that person's gay. You don't fit my gender mold, so that means you're gay.
Yeah.
And, it's something that we've all kind of played into because unfortunately our society is set up in this heteronormative, stereotypical gender focus that that was ingrained in us. And if anyone wants to learn more about gender theory, please check out Gender Trouble by Judith Butler. It is wonderful, and it goes more into the sociology of this, but it's really just a sociological, psychological thing. Because the reality is that we created these preconceived notions.
Yeah.
These were not things that existed within nature. We created them, and then it's easier for a heteronormative society to stick to those boundaries of understanding.
Yeah, because everybody understands that throughout nature, 9 times out of 10, animals are male and female. And they will only be in a male and female relationship because that's how the species continues. But there are creatures out there that do actually practice homosexual behavior.
Penguins.
Dolphins.
It's been seen in lions too.
Lions, penguins, dolphins, whales.
I might
Monkeys.
be mistaken, but I think
Monkeys.
bats. I've heard bats.
Bats too. So mostly mammals.
Yeah.
Well, not counting penguins.
Burbs.
Burbs. But there are burbs that do that, occasionally. And it's like, it happens. It's not an unheard of concept, which actually brings me to yet another stereotype that gay men face. And that is the fact that they are always stereotyped as always partying.
I've heard of that.
But that actually started, and this was before the Stonewall riots in 1969, where most LGBT people were extremely private and closeted, but house parties, bars, and taverns became some of the few places where they could meet, socialize, and feel safe. Now, the riots represented the start of the modern LGBTQ movement, social movement,
Right.
and the acceptance of sexual and gender minorities, which has steadily increased. But the festive and party-like social occasions remain at the core of organizing, fundraising in the community. And in cities where there are large communities, like our own here in New York,
Yes.
benefits and bar fundraisers are still common. Alcohol companies invest heavily in LGBT-oriented marketing. There used to be tons of underground gay clubs and disc jockeys in the disco era. They kept the partying aspect, beautiful. Then the club kids kept it better. And then it just has evolved into the, not so much anymore because it's more of a mainstream thing.
Yeah.
But it's still seen as if you go to a gay club or a gay bar or a lesbian bar or a lesbian club, you're going to have more fun as if you were going to a straight one.
Heck yeah, cubby hole. Shout you out. I waited an hour to get in and it was worth it. Oh, and Henrietta Hudson's. Oh, I love Henrietta Hudson's.
Henrietta Hudson's is fun.
I need to go to these places.
Oh, I will take you.
We will take you, my child.
But no, I think that's a huge part of it because I believe where that comes from is the queer sense to need and want to build community.
Yes.
And that was our way to build community. And there are tons of and I know this from a friend of mine, her partner is a disc jockey, and there is tons of still underground music scenes that exist within the queer community. They go over, Mood Ring was a big one they used to check out. And, it's great to see how the ideas of music, dance are all built into this idea of community and belonging.
Yep.
And it's nice to see that it continues to run through. I mean, Hot Rabbit's been around for God knows how long.
I mean, honestly, though, but these are again, goes back to, while it is a stereotype that could be used to harm, we took it back.
Exactly.
And another stereotype that drives me crazy is the gay man and fag hag relationship. I hate that fucking stereotype. Will and Grace.
Wait, what's Will and Grace?
It was a funny TV show back in the
Yeah.
day. And it stereotyped Will, a gay man, whose best friend is Grace, and their adventures together as,
Oh, is this kind of like the gay best friend trope?
Yeah.
100%. Gay best friend
Gotcha.
trope is
And they
one
had
of
it in Mean Girls.
longest running.
I mean, yeah, I know I've seen that trope and pop up in quite a few.
Yeah,
But that trope is a stereotype.
yeah. Oh, I know.
Yeah, and
been going on
the
forever.
the biggest stereotype is that the straight heteronormative female is always in love with the gay best friend.
Oh boy, yeah.
Why?
I mean, as much as
Hell
I
no.
love Seinfeld, there's literally an entire episode about that where Elaine tries to turn him straight because he's the ideal partner for her because he loves the opera and he loves keeping neat. And, then the whole joke at the end is, of course, she couldn't turn him straight because he's not straight. But that's kind of the whole
Concept.
concept and how it kind of built out. I mean, They did it in
Little
Glee.
pig, little pig.
Not to keep bringing up
Let
Glee.
me in.
But they did that with the Kurt Hummel characters in season 1. Like, first it was Mercedes. That was the gay best friend.
Yep.
And then because Mercedes wasn't as popular as a character, unfortunately, because she was so much better than Rachel, they made him the gay best friend of Rachel, and Mercedes lost kind of like influence in the show. And it was a very complicated show, and I feel like could take up an entire episode. But
Oh, definitely.
it definitely played into a lot of these stereotypes in order to make the show more palatable.
Palatable.
Oh my God.
You're okay.
Vacation brain. Palatable, because it was one of these shows that for the first time was like, hi, teenage viewers, there are gay people and there are later trans people in Glee. So
Actually
tried its
brings me
best.
to my next stereotype.
All right, let's go.
Pedophilia and predation.
that was also in Glee.
It is a common stereotype that gay men are sexual predators or pedophiles. And the former perception can lead to a knee-jerk reaction that created the gay panic defense,
Yeah.
usually in straight men who fear being hit on by gay men, or can be either a cause of or an expression of homophobia.
Oh, 100%.
Now, the perception that a greater portion of gay than straight men are pedophiles or child sexual abusers is one contributing factor of discrimination against gay teachers, despite the stark contrast to statistical figures, which have generally revealed that most male child sexual abusers, including those who target boys, are hetero and are usually married with children of their own. And research on child sexual abuse shows that most instances of child sexual abuse, one-sided percentage being over 90%, are perpetrated by heterosexual men
Because it's all about power.
raping underage females. So tell me again how the gay community is being stereotyped as pedophiles and predators when it's heteros that are doing it.
No, exactly.
That is a dangerous stereotype.
Yeah, and it doesn't, because it doesn't fit the whole like moral panic that, you know,
They
that-
want to create.
exactly
Right.
that heteros want to create. And,
Right.
like, that's a problem.
That is a
because you
huge
have
problem.
in it like you have innocent fucking queer people who, you know, like are just trying to live their lives, or like you have innocent queer people that want to start families or want to adopt kids that aren't being allowed to because of these fucking stereotypes. And
Facts.
that's actively harmful.
Which is really funny because actually one of the shows that depicts a healthy gay relationship is Modern Family.
I love Modern Family.
And they actually did adopt a daughter and they
Yep.
raised her and all this shit. Like Modern Family, we've talked about Modern Family before. It's a great fucking show.
Yeah.
They're, you know, obviously they hit all the stereotypes, you know, like one of them is extremely flamboyant and the other one is kind of more grounded but also can be very flamboyant.
Yeah.
But yet they're good parents.
Right.
You know, like they're great parents actually, for lack of a better word. You know, and that daughter gets whatever the hell she wants.
Yeah.
So it's like this is again a very dangerous stereotype
right.
that has been perpetrated for years, decades, longer
Yeah.
than I've been alive.
Exactly. And what's interesting is to go into the psychology of it, unfortunately, like a lot of predatory behavior all comes from power and wanting to have power over others. It really has nothing to do with sexual orientation in most cases. It usually always has to do with sexual incompetency or someone's feeling of having a lack of power that they need to use any power they can assess against someone that has none, i.e. children.
Yeah.
And, you
And
know,
yet, meanwhile, they have these freaking crazy ass people that are trying to say that pedophilia is normal.
I know, it's
No,
disgusting.
It is
gross.
fucking not normal. I don't give a shit if you come for me. You're disgusting. You belong in jail or the very minimum castrated forever.
and stop trying to like fucking lump in with the LGBTQ plus movement.
Oh
Please
God,
and
that's
thank
what I was. That's what I'm saying. Like you are not a member of
You are
our
not
community.
us.
You are
Yeah.
not a part of it.
Get out. But I also want to say, like, kind of in tandem with this, which I know we're going to touch on this later, but the pedophilia and you know, being predatory also ties into trans stereotypes too.
And we will touch on that
Unfortunately.
when we get to the trans part of this. But
Yeah. But no,
for
like,
real.
that is such a big one. And again, it is so harmful because people like y'all have to understand, you know, like the queer our queer listeners, like you guys know, you don't need to be reminded, but like to the people who are straight that are listening who may not be aware of this, like queer people are literally killed
every day.
every day because there are people that genuinely believe these like stereotypes like this.
Yep.
No, it's crazy because to bring up Glee again, I think one of the most harmful storylines they ever told was Kurt, who was my favorite character and still is within the series. They had him going after Finn, who is very obviously a straight guy, and kept having him incessantly go after Finn because maybe he could get Finn to like him.
Crossing that boundary. And, you know, they amended it later on and were like, oh, he understood. And now they're best friends. And they ended up becoming like adoptive brothers like later in the show. But like, I'm sitting there and I'm like, okay, so you finally have an openly gay character on TV. And now as an older queer person seeing it, I'm like, and that's what you wanted to put out into the universe? Like, yes, you improved the story and you took that completely out. But like, do you know how, like, it was so uncomfortable even as a kid. I believe it.
Like, watching them making this gay, obviously gay character going after an obviously straight man to kind of be like, almost prove a bad stereotype.
Yeah, just like the homosexual homicidal.
Yeah.
Fucking Silence of the Lambs.
Oh, yes. I mean,
You're going to sit there and tell me that Wild Bill isn't the equivalent epitome of that?
oh, 100%.
I need to see the movie all the way
I've
through,
read
but
the book and I've seen the movie. And while I love the movie and love the book, granted, though, the book gives more detail to make it very clear that that's not the connection.
Yeah.
Because they go into more of the psychology end with, oh goodness, Hannibal Lecter in his conversations with Clarice in the book. However, in the movie, you can only get so much in. And unfortunately, they chose the base level.
Yeah. I mean, we're also dealing 1992.
Exactly, which is interesting because the actress who plays Grace is very much an out and proud lesbian.
Yes.
We love her. But yeah, no, it's very much the epitome of that of like, oh, he's a gay man that wants to be perceived as feminine. So instead of presenting that way, he decides he's going to kill a bunch of women and turn them into a woman suit. It's like,
Which
oh,
really fucks with trans people, too.
no,
on
it
that stereotype.
does. It does.
really does.
Real, and drag queens.
And as much as I...
It's like every single factor of the gay community that you could hit, you did.
And as much as I do love that movie from the perspective of I enjoyed the acting, I enjoy the storytelling, it's very easy for me to look at it and be like, wow, this is so outdated. And that's why I loved when they did the Hannibal series.
They explained it better.
They explained it better and they went out of their way to make it like the queerest show humanly possible.
Fact.
Like, it was great.
I love that.
I'm obsessed with it.
Like, so another big stereotype that gay men have is that they're addicted to drugs. That all of them do cocaine or crystal meth or anything like that. And every single one of them does heroin. And
Yeah.
and because of that, every single one of them has AIDS.
Yeah, unfortunately, like, that plays very into, like, the clubbing aspect.
The partying
and the partying. Because, like, the problem is like, yeah, like any person, there are sex clubs, there are things like that does happen. However,
I'm not saying it doesn't, but it's not every single fucking one of us.
exactly. However, unfortunately, definitely due to the AIDS crisis, the gay community got fully targeted in these stereotypes because it was like, oh, if you weren't partying so much and if you weren't shooting up and if you weren't doing
You weren't
this,
shoving multiple cocks in your ass.
you wouldn't be giving us all AIDS. And it's sad because that really wasn't the reality for a lot of people, number one, who had AIDS and unfortunately have passed away.
And the other problem is also, like, because of the pandemic that happened, people got infected with bad blood because they didn't know.
Yeah.
They didn't know it was transmitted that way. They thought it was just sexually. So people would donate blood and then they would get infected and all of a sudden they were immediately, as soon as somebody says they have HIV or AIDS, they were immediately perceived as, oh my God, you're gay.
Exactly.
Even if they weren't.
You could even be born with HIV.
And they were to be like, oh, you're gay.
Yeah.
It's like, no. The two do not correlate. It just,
You know, like you could just
You can get it from
can get
multiple
it.
avenues.
yeah. But
like HIV/AIDS is not just a gay person's disease, and we gotta like
Exactly.
kill that one too.
And unfortunately,
real.
that led into the discrimination of if you were gay, you couldn't give blood.
Yeah.
Or donate.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, if you're clean and you have a clean bill of health, you should be able to donate and you should be allowed to. And you should
But
never.
no, because your sexual orientation
Exactly.
is gay, you can't give blood.
You should never be judged on what you want to do with your own body to help others just because you're gay.
Right. And that
Is
leads...
that still a thing, or
Yeah.
Yeah, not as
yes and
bad.
no.
It's nowhere near as bad.
No.
Okay.
Because we do have all the screenings now.
Right.
And obviously it's like, more research has been put into
Gotcha.
in the years since the pandemic got really bad in the
Yeah.
80s. There's
because
it's not as heavily as a stigma anymore.
okay.
But it is still a stigma.
Because I have heard of the if you're gay, you can't donate blood. I knew that it had to do with like the AIDS crisis, but I didn't know if it was still like heavily enforced.
No, I don't
No.
think so. It's more of if you have a transmittable disease like AIDS, HIV, Hep C, Hep A, B,
Gotcha.
all that kind of stuff. Obviously, if you're sickle cell or stuff like that, because of the research and the way that the medical science is advanced, it's not,
Like that.
oh,
as
you're
much
gay,
anymore.
you can't give blood. I'm bisexual.
Yeah.
I give blood.
Right.
Yeah, I mean-
it's more so like you said, like they screen for everything though, and it's like if you're good, you're
Yep.
good. You can
Yeah.
donate. All right, cool.
Yeah, so for that stereotype doesn't seem to still hold true, which is great.
Yes.
Which is great because that actually leads me into our next topic of lesbians.
Yes.
Come on, lesbians!
Let's go, lesbians.
I love my lesbians out there.
So, the thing is, many 20th century films have all put a negative connotation on the lesbian community. So, they literally say that most lesbians are depressed, dark, lonely, butch, they're women that want to be men, kind of the stereotype. And that is further from the fucking truth that I can guarantee you on almost 90% of the lesbians I know. Don't get me wrong, I know quite a few butches, but they don't want to be a man.
Exactly.
They enjoy being women.
Oh no, I was literally gonna say listen, again, like you said, know quite a few butch women. They're very happy being butch women.
Very
That's the whole
much.
point.
They one of the big stereotypes is that lesbians will prey on straight women and take them from men.
God. I'm sorry. I'm literally like, my God. It's like, I'm sorry, but if she can steal your girl, that ain't a straight woman.
Nope.
Exactly.
Another big thing is that lesbians will actually mistreat bisexual women to a point where if they have any history of sleeping with men, they won't touch them.
Well, I
know is true.
yeah, I hate to say that I have experienced that, but I have.
Yeah.
And I've also seen other people I know experience it in 4K. And unfortunately, we are going to go into bisexual stereotypes.
We will.
But a lot of it has to do with the unfortunate bisexual stereotype, especially for older gen lesbians, and them taking in those stereotypes, taking them in as truth, and then applying them to every single use case.
Yeah, I had a former friend, similar experience, former friend of mine who happens to be a lesbian, told me that she would not date a bisexual woman, for the same reason, more like, because she thinks she'd be more likely to get an STD that way.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, okay.
I will say, though, I think
I
it
was-
has improved, at least my experiences from
Yeah.
being at the clubs, being at the bars. It seems to have improved.
A little bit.
A
The
little
other thing
bit.
is this person ended up being a TERF. Not because, which has nothing to do with her being a lesbian.
No,
That's
no,
just
I know what you mean.
those are two things that,
Two very different
unfortunately, I have heard that being being a stereotype also, which is, I just want to nip that one in the bud. That is not that should not be a stereotype. That is not a thing. Sometimes people are TERFs, and obviously we do not agree with that here. Trans women are women.
Yep. That's right, they are.
Yeah.
Trans men are men.
Exactly. Trans women are women, trans men are men.
And
You're
they can
valid.
be non-binary too.
Yeah, exactly. Non-binary people exist. You're valid. We love you.
Yes, we do. But
yeah.
so another big thing with lesbians, they always get portrayed as having short asexual haircuts, baggy clothing. They always play sports. They're good with power tools. They're like carpenters and rug layers and construction workers.
Yeah.
They're literally always generally depicted as butch. Like, if you have a fucking carabiner and on your fucking waist, you're a lesbian butch. Like, come on, stop that shit.
No, I will say that as soon as you said that, all I thought about was the wonderful song of Ring of Keys from the musical Fun Home. Because that's like kind of the joke is like she, as a child, is discovering that she is a lesbian and she's singing about a lesbian construction worker, basically, that she sees wearing dungarees and has a ring of keys on a carabiner.
There you go.
And it's a great song. If y'all haven't listened to it, please do. Fun Home was one of the most wonderful musicals I've ever had the pleasure of seeing on stage.
Yeah.
And, that is definitely a stereotype.
Hey,
But
baby.
It's not just for lesbians. Like, I've heard, like, carabiners.
I carry carabiners.
Yeah.
My keys are on a carabiner. Yes, I am bisexual, but it doesn't make me a butch.
No, exactly. Like, that's kind of become more of a, that's a queer person type of stereotype.
Yeah.
At
Yeah.
least that's been my experience.
No,
of
I
it.
don't disagree.
What's also funny is like I feel like power tools has kind of become more of like a general lesbian kind of stereotype.
Yeah.
Because I have seen some of my friends who are lesbians. Like I'm talking the most like femme of the femme.
What they call a lipstick lesbian.
Yeah.
Correct.
Like femme, lipstick, lesbian, fucking girly pop, pink, everything. Fucking home improvement on that shit, okay? Like
love this for that.
power tools.
It's called a hustle, sweetheart.
Power tools, home improvement, fucking drywall, all that shit. So like,
Nice.
yeah. So I feel like it's definitely become more of a like the home, like the kind of like the home improvement and like
It's a blanket stereotype.
Yeah.
yeah, especially for like lesbians, but also kind of like queer women by extension. It's
Yeah,
definitely-
no, that's a blanket instead of
Yeah.
a targeted
Exactly.
stereotype. Because it actually goes on, so my research went on to say that 99% of the time, butch or femme is the category that a lesbian falls into.
yeah.
And butch lesbians obviously are the more masculine women. Dyke is a term that was reclaimed because of it.
Yeah.
They're considered members of a community that is perceived as being composed of strong and outspoken advocates in wider society. Which, fuck yeah. The other thing is, I said it before, lipstick lesbian, which is the femme women who tend to be hyper feminine. The ones who love having their nails done and having their hair done and wearing jewelry and lipstick, and the ones that are like super like, oh my gosh, she's so fucking beautiful and hot, but meanwhile she munches on rug. Like, I made you laugh.
Is it bad that I'm literally just thinking of Gina Gershon and Jennifer Tilly in Bound?
Portia de Rossi,
Yep.
Wait,
I love Portia.
Ellen DeGeneres' wife.
She was in Arrested Development.
I've never seen Arrested Development.
Oh,
It's
you have
okay.
to see it.
She came out in 2005 as a lesbian and challenged the entire perception up until that point of what a lesbian looks like, which is, great for her pioneering. But like also at the same time, a lot of women report feeling rejected by the queer community because they are not appearing or acting in the accepted way, which is either butch or femme.
Because a lot fall within both.
True.
Yeah. Well, I also know there is like a broader history when it comes to butch and femme as identities within like the lesbian culture. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to think because like I did actually like years ago because when I was exploring my own identity, I for a while I did think I was a lesbian. I am, I'm
Hey,
bisexual.
baby.
But I was, researching it. There is like, and from what I remember, like there is a lot of history behind that. Like, it's not just I dress masculine, I'm butch. Oh, I like to dress girly, I'm femme. Like there's a little bit of like gender roles that kind of go into it.
Yep.
There's also like you have to take into like the historical context as well. Like look at Stonewall. There were a lot of butch lesbians.
Yeah.
At Stonewall.
Well, that's because that's what they were perceived to look at. And actually, believe it or not, lesbian feminists, those are real,
Yes.
assert that a sexual component is unnecessary for a woman to declare herself a lesbian if her primary and closest relationships are with women. on the basis that when considering past relationships with an appropriate historical context, there were times when love and sex were separate and unrelated notions. So you could be in love with a man, but still have sex with women and vice versa.
Yeah.
And still be a lesbian, according to the feminists.
Yeah.
Like, it's not the same.
Well, yeah, because so the split attraction model is a thing.
Yes.
Which basically, for those who don't know what that means, it basically means like your romantic attraction, your romantic like orientation, and your sexual attraction or sexual orientation is two separate things.
Yup.
So in theory, a person can be heteroromantic but homosexual. I'm just throwing that out there as
no,
an
you're
example.
fine. I'm
Yeah,
actually
you're
going to
good.
read a quote to you guys from 1989. An academic cohort called the Lesbian History Group wrote this. Because of society's reluctance to admit that lesbians exist, a high degree of certainty is expected before historians or biographers are allowed to use the label. Evidence that would suffice in any other situation is inadequate here. A woman who never married, who lived with another woman, whose friends were mostly women, or who moved in known lesbian or mixed gay circles may well have been a lesbian. But this sort of evidence is not proof. What our critics want is incontrovertible evidence of sexual activity between women. This is almost impossible to find.
I just thought, oh my God, they were roommates.
And
they were roommates.
But like, how many like historical figures have we seen? Like just floating, I'm just talking like floating around the internet. Have we seen where like, especially with women?
Well, they say that Queen Elizabeth may have been gay.
Oh, I believe it.
Or at least at very minimum bisexual.
Yeah.
Married Todd
Like-
Lincoln,
Yeah.
but also Abraham Lincoln.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah. No, but like but especially with women, you'll see like, literally writing love letters to another woman, talking about how they would, granted in old timey terms, how they would like to sleep with another woman.
The flower language.
The flower
Yeah.
language, exactly. But no, sorry, they were just really close
No,
friends. They were, like,
unless there's
sisters.
evidence of scissoring, it's not real.
Eleanor
Exactly.
Like,
Roosevelt.
fuck off.
It's like, I'm sorry, but it's like,
Those stereotypes, again, hurtful,
yeah,
but there for a reason.
yeah, and I think also just not to like veer too much off subject, but also when you take into the perception and the attitudes around female sexuality at the time, like a woman couldn't just come out and say, "Hey, I want to fuck." No, like you had to be very discreet and subtle about it. Had to be like, hey, I would like to point your flower with my tongue. That's probably even too forward. That's probably too forward still. But
Honestly, I wish somebody would say that to me.
Honestly, I would love you to just pick my flower,
hey yo,
fertilize it.
hey. So I like my eggs in the morning.
Damn!
But that brings me to now trans. We're going to talk about trans
Yes.
people and their stereotypes. Now, transgender is an umbrella term, okay? That encompasses a wide range of people with more specific identities. In general, a person who is transgender identifies with a gender other than the gender assigned at birth. The term may apply to any number of distinct communities, such as cross-dressers, drag queens, drag kings, including transsexuals. The belief that a transgender people are all prostitutes and caricatures of men and women are two of the most erroneous misconceptions.
Yes, unfortunately, that one runs rampant.
Yeah. Now, the only thing I will say is like there is a I don't want to say like a high percentage, but there is like a percentage of sex workers who are trans and who are queer. Woohoo! Like I'm not trying to say like that's I'm not trying to say like that's
The oldest
everyone.
profession in the world. There's no shame in it.
Oh yeah, exactly. Like even going back, even like going, I mean, like you said, oldest profession in the world, but like you got like even going back, like there were like even like 50s and 60s, there were a lot of trans women who were sex workers.
Yeah, and one of the big things about that, and a lot of people get this mixed up, is trans women are always assumed to be drag queens. And just because they may be in the drag scene alongside gay men does not make them drag queens.
Yeah.
No, exactly.
I think another thing is though, like, back again in like the 50s and 60s, even like I would say even like 70s and 80s, like trans and like transgender wasn't really a term that was used as often.
No.
A lot of times drag queens was just kind of used as an umbrella term for anyone that was
for a
crossing.
transvestite.
Yeah.
Like that was the word that they used. Transvestite is always perceived to be homosexual.
Yeah.
Nah, sometimes it didn't. It didn't. Most transvestites are actually heterosexual.
Yeah.
And although the people use the words interchangeably, transvestite has increasingly become a derogatory term.
Yeah.
Most people will prefer to use the term cross-dresser or cross-dressing.
Yeah.
And it's actually funny because the word transvestism comes from the combination of Latin words trans, which means across, over, and vestitus, which means dress.
Yeah.
Literally, transvestite translates from Latin to cross-dress.
No, exactly. And kind of how we're talking about how sexuality and gender are two very, very different things. Just because you're straight does not mean you can't be either a drag queen or a drag king.
True.
Just because you're non-binary doesn't mean that you can't be a drag king or a drag queen. Or
You can be both.
You can be both, because drag in and of itself is specifically performance.
I could be blue, I could be green, I could be purple too.
I love that song. But yes, drag in and of itself is a performance that's exaggerating the idea of gender. It is making fun of the gender normative things that we have forced upon our society. Gonna shout it out again. Gender Trouble by Judith Butler. Read it. But it's so much a performance. It's meant to bring out these kind of ridiculous notions we've built into our society.
The characters are literally larger than life for a reason.
Exactly. It's satire.
It is.
It's a satire of gender. That's
is.
the point.
Yeah. So here's another bad stereotype for transsexualism. A transsexual person is born with the physical characteristics of one sex who psychologically and emotionally identifies with a variant or different gender than their physical sex characteristics. Now, stereotypes of trans women include them being taller and having larger hands than cisgender women, where trans men are often stereotyped as being cuter, more feminine, and more passive than their cisgender counterparts, being classified as soft boys. Both transgender men and women are often conflated with being gay, with trans men being mistaken for lesbians and trans women being mistaken for gay men.
Gosh.
Not a fucking thing.
No, I can't tell you how many times I need to correct people in that arena. And also, the big thing there, too, is we have discovered that psychologically, you cannot change the fact that you're trans.
Nope.
Yeah.
Psychologically, you are trans.
I like your funny words, Magic Man.
It is part of your own mental health and your own mental well-being.
And guess what? Giving gender affirming care to trans people actually helps them.
Saves lives.
Saves
Wild
lives.
concept, I know.
Yeah.
Let's get to the meat and potatoes that is very near and dear to us, and that is bisexual stereotypes.
Yep.
Now, bisexual people are often characterized as being indecisive because we are attracted to both men and women.
Love it. Also, being bisexual does not mean that you're only just attracted to men and women. Being bisexual is just overall meaning that you can be attracted to any gender. It's actually fully believed and discussed within the queer community that bisexuality is not binary. Just putting that out there.
I mean, literally going as far back as the 60s, the term attraction regardless of gender has been used to describe bisexuality.
Exactly. So it's like, where do we go wrong in understanding this concept?
I can't remember the exact quote or who said it, but basically in describing bisexuality, like back in the 60s, it was said that that the bi should, basically the bi does not mean, just two genders, man and woman. Hell, you shouldn't even assume that there are only two genders.
Correct.
So
There you go.
Yeah.
So that knocks that one out of the park for y'all.
Another one that we get is we're promiscuous. and incapable of steady and long-term relationships. No. As
I have a ring on my finger two rings on my finger that would prove otherwise.
same. And you're in a long-term relationship, Lavender.
Yes, we've been together now for over a year.
Yes.
And
I mean, granted, that may not be long-term to a lot of people, but that's a long time for you.
no, exactly. And one of those things is like what you enjoy in your sexual life, more times than not, really has nothing to do with how you feel about commitment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And everybody goes through different phases of what they want in terms of commitment. And just putting it under the bisexual umbrella that you don't have any commitment, like, let's be real. I feel like all of us have a hoe phase. I know I sure as hell did. Like, let's just be real. Like,
I don't know what you're talking about. You're lying!
it's just the reality of being a human being if you personally enjoy sex.
What's this? What's this?
Oh my
And it's
God.
like, wow, sorry that me being bisexual just, you're assuming that means that I don't ever want to have a long-term relationship.
You know how they assume they always want us to have threesomes?
Oh my God.
I mean, I want threesomes not because I'm bi. That's just because I'm kinky.
Hello. And also on top of that, we are incapable of monogamy.
Untrue.
Again.
Look,
I'll give you the argument here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm married, but I'm polyamorous.
Right, but
Exactly.
that's because you're polyamorous, not
But that
because
was
you're
because I
bisexual.
was polyamorous even before I got married.
Yeah.
That has not changed.
Right.
I'm not changing who I was fundamentally just because I got married.
Yeah.
exactly.
I'm
Like,
married and I'm monogamous.
I'm monogamous as well. And that's just personally my preference. And I have been
Not interested.
in, relationship. Well, I call them more situationships. The reason I say that is because it wasn't like a long-term relationship. But
Well, that's
I
fine.
have been in like situationships with partners that were poly, and there was nothing wrong with that.
Hi, Georgie.
It's just the reality of human nature. It's like, yeah, when I was going through as I was joking around my
Hoe
hoe phase,
phase.
I had a few different partners that I was seeing, but once I had personally felt that I had settled down and I found someone that I was comfortable with, I personally, once I'm in a relationship, do like to be monogamous. But also, you can be monogamous with someone that is polyamorous as long as you guys speak and communicate about your needs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm in it.
exactly.
Right.
There's no mutually exclusive club that everybody's in.
Nope.
And also, like, with polyamory, like, you don't have to be polyamorous and bisexual. The two
No,
are not
the two
mutually
are not mutually
No,
exclusive.
I know.
You can be gay and polyamorous,
Yep.
straight and polyamorous, anything
You
else
could be
under the
gay,
sun.
straight, and monogamous.
Exactly.
You can be
But-
bisexual and
Exactly.
monogamous.
Exactly.
I would also
These
like to
things are
shout
not
out-
mutually exclusive.
On top of that, like, please do not assume just because we're bisexual that you want to use us as sexual objects. Because I cannot tell you how many times I was approached by someone I thought was a previous friend who tried using my
You should totally
sexuality
have a threesome with us.
to like, we think it'll help our chemistry so that they could have better sex. And I was like, and I was unfortunately like
Disgusted.
disgusted, but like on top of that, it's like I was, high at the time, so I
Oh, it
couldn't
gets
make a
better.
rational
Remember, they
decision.
actually say that bisexuals are sexually manipulative.
Yeah, and apparently it was meanwhile, I was high and these people were trying to get me to do something, and these were two supposedly incredibly straight human beings.
So straight that they decide to proposition my husband and I also.
These nuts.
Exactly.
Sure.
Yeah.
So straight.
Like, also,
Goodbye.
we're unwilling to commit to a sexual identity. We are experimental or transitional phase between hetero and homo.
I mean, guys, guess what? I have committed to a sexual identity. I'm bisexual.
What?
Oh,
No.
it gets worse. They also say that we are less likely to sexually satisfy our partners.
I just wanna laugh
I have never heard any complaints. Never heard any
Oh, it
complaints.
was so good he put a ring on it.
I mean, never heard any complaints. I'm just saying. And the biggest one of all that, like, is also very dangerous to us is that we are more likely to transmit STDs than the gays or the lesbians because we're promiscuous. And yeah.
Yeah,
It's
like,
not
it's
even true.
not a fun one. And
It's not.
true.
It's look, everybody should get tested. It doesn't matter if you're straight, queer, nothing. Like, you should always be getting tested because you want to be safe with your partners. Number
Exactly.
one. Number two, anybody can have a sexually transmitted disease. And I really resent the stereotype that queer people are the
Dirty.
epitome of dirty and having sexually transmitted diseases and are going to be the ones to pass it along to you.
Oh, or what about the other stereotype that if you're gay, lesbian, or bisexual, your child is going to grow up to be gay, lesbian, or bisexual?
what?
Because we're going to warp their brains and they're not going to want to be straight.
I mean,
Wild, crazy, insane. I literally watched the cutest little boys who had two moms. And I would like to say this right now. So much bigotry is literally just taught through the line.
Yeah.
Oh,
'Cause
yeah.
These kids, and I love my children. I love them when I worked in daycare. And that was something we used to talk about a lot. Was some of the kids would ask me, because I had grown up in this small Roman Catholic town. There weren't very many out and proud lesbian couples who had 3 children. And, the kids would ask me, oh, why is it that they have 2 mommies? And all I said was, it's basically the same as having a mom and dad. They just have 2 moms. And the kids were like, okay, makes sense to me.
Right.
And went on with their day.
No, exactly. And the biggest problem with being bisexual is because of all these stereotypes, because of all these misconceptions, we are usually erased. And
yeah.
we're not as open with being like announcing like, oh, I'm totally gay or I'm totally a lesbian. We're more just like, oh yeah, I'm bisexual. It's kind of like it's like a whispered thing.
Yeah.
Sometimes like a guilty thing to say because we're not gay enough for the queer community and we're not straight enough for the straight community, and that's why we get erased.
Yeah, and it's tough too because being married, I'm married to a man. My husband Cam also, he's pretty much out at this point, so he is bi also.
Yes.
We're both, I'm pretty sure I've said it before on the podcast anyway, but and it's like we kind of exist in this weird space, the two of us, because we look like a straight couple.
Yeah.
We often get perceived as a straight couple.
Yep.
But when we're around other, I want to say honestly, other bi couples is when people tend to kind of put the pieces together.
Yeah.
Biphobia is a thing.
Biphobia is a huge thing.
Biphobia is a huge thing.
And the unfortunate thing with biphobia is we get it from both sides.
We do.
Agreed.
We get it from the queer community and we get it from straight people.
Yeah.
Well, that becomes the theory of intersectionality.
Yeah.
Where discrimination leveled against an individual can compound be based on several factors: race, class, gender, sexuality.
Yes.
As members of the LGBT community, we're also could be members of other minority groups and stand at all ends of the socioeconomic spectrum. Intersectional stereotypes are often perpetrated and included in related to class and race.
Yes.
So people of color and those of a lower socioeconomic status are most likely to go to prison, where LGBT members of these groups are often misrepresented as being criminally inclined. Where, again, homicidal homosexual.
Yeah.
Fucking,
Yeah.
and they often face discrimination in prison as they are typically gender segregated and are stereotyped as being sexually available to the other prisoners. And this makes them vulnerable to assault and discrimination both behind bars and in the outside world.
Not to shout out Law and Order SVU, but to shout out Law and Order SVU.
Go for it.
They actually did
Hey.
a really great episode on this about a trans woman who was put on trial, and basically she does get sent to jail, but they send her to a men's prison. And she ends up dying at the end of the episode. And the whole point was for them to point out she was a woman. It was unsafe to put her in a men's prison.
Yeah.
Why would you do that?
Yeah.
That was kind of the crux of the episode, where they step away and the attorney is in tears
Yeah.
Yeah.
because she was just about to go in to get her transferred to the correct prison.
Yeah.
Jeez.
other stereotypes, especially because like we're gonna go into intersectionality now because this counts on all counts, whether you're gay, straight, bisexual, whatever. African Americans their gay men are often characterized as being dominant in the relationship, both sexually and emotionally. And this is deeply rooted in the Mandingo stereotype, which is a popular stereotype among the opponents of the Emancipation Proclamation that painted African American men as animalistic and brutish to deepen the existing divide between whites and blacks. In addition to the traditional forms of racism, gay black men are subject to sexual racism that extends to that people will expect them to be the top during, sexual acts, to the stereotypes that also make them sexually aggressive partners with large penises. These stereotypes are observed in all forms of media, notably pornography, which depicts black gay men as sexual predators who are capable of satisfying fantasies of extreme domination. Black members of the LGBT community also face discrimination and stereotypes from other blacks who are historically likely to be religious and stereotype homosexuals as having loose morals. So the religious stereotypes surrounding the community are also especially prevalent in certain black evangelical churches where LGBT members are thought to be damned to hell.
Yeah.
With respect to the experience of the African American lesbian, they deliberately construct their identities to protect themselves against the intersectional forms of discrimination. Though black, feminine, and masculine lesbians, femmes, and studs use gender performance to blend into a heteropatriarchal society, they continue to experience negative gender and racial stereotypes. Black femmes are often characterized as hypersexual, submissive women who lack substance and, in conformity with traditional feminine gender norms, are obsessed with their outward appearance, as their visual identity allows them to pass as hetero. Black femmes are often shielded from homophobic violence. However, due to their subordinate position in the dominant racial and gender hierarchy, black women remain vulnerable to misogyny regardless of perceived or actual sexual orientation. Disgusting. Studs are similarly identified through dress and appearance. In an attempt to imitate straight black men, studs will incorporate stereotypical elements of thuggish style into their own, often covered in loose-fitting clothing and chains, with their hair styled in braids, twists, or tied up or cut short. To protect themselves against homophobia within the black and non-black communities, studs will exaggerate certain elements of traditional masculinity to become one of the guys. As a result, studs are stereotyped as having extremely sexist and homophobic attitudes towards feminine lesbians and gay men. That's a lot.
No,
It's a lot to unpack. But yeah.
it is a lot to unpack.
I mean, I can't speak because I'm not black.
Yeah,
neither are any of us.
neither of us
Like-
are. But I do think it's important that we do bring awareness to these issues, even if we can't speak on it. I'm hopefully
We can't speak on experience.
we can't speak on experience, but we can bring awareness, and hopefully, it'll open up the conversation, and we can, pass the mic to people that can speak on it from experience.
I would love to. Apparently, it does also come to where, yes, a lot of that is their upbringing.
Yeah.
Because a lot of my black friends and people that I know are extremely religious.
Yeah.
And I do know that a lot of my friends that are black and gay feel such guilt
Yeah.
over their sexual orientation that they're just so depressed because 9 times out of 10 these are the ones that are the most likely to be cast out from their family or disowned, all based on, again, the stereotype.
Yeah, and I will say, if a really great informative piece of film that I would suggest anyone to watch if you really want to understand more so that experience and see it from the from an actual African American director, Moonlight, which won the Academy Award for Best Picture in 2016.
Ooh, that was a good one.
Please go see it. It's a wonderful film. It talks about a lot of these stereotypes that are built into the community. It talks very openly about them, but also talks about ideas and how their communities can move past them.
Yeah, because believe it or not, Latino and Hispanic community suffer almost the same thing.
Yeah.
You would know.
Yes.
Cam is Puerto Rican.
Cam is Puerto Rican. What's actually what I will say is interesting though is he's Puerto Rican and Italian, and he has faced a lot more. Granted, he's none of the family listens to the podcast, so I could say whatever I want. But like, even though he's not out to them, he's definitely faced more like I don't want to say outright discrimination, but like he's been called been called slurs and stuff by the Italian side of the family.
Oh yeah, Italians are fucking notoriously homophobic.
Yeah.
As a half Italian, I could speak on that.
The Puerto Ricans pretty much, like they're the Puerto Ricans, his side of the family, were cool with it. They and granted he's not like really out to it. He's not out to his family, but he's kind of at a point where like he doesn't need to come out. Like his mom figured it out.
Oh yeah.
Both of his parents pretty much figured it out. He has other family who are, figuring out their identities, and they're like, there's a lot of open communication. So again, like it's good. Like there's definitely, I will say, like that part of his family is much more progressive.
Oh yeah, but
yeah,
again, it comes down to the dominant stereotype of Hispanic and Latino family structures is that they are centered on the macho man that determines appropriate forms of masculinity and femininity. Mm-hmm. A good man, for example, is not only expected to provide for his family and protect the women and children, but also maintain a positive family image through sometimes abusive and oppressive tactics.
Yeah.
As such, a quote-unquote good woman is expected to be a submissive and subservient position to both men and the family. And due to the sexuality, gay men and women are perceived to be at odds with that traditional view. Because this assigns gender roles and are discriminated against as a result. Because in addition to machismo, the community are stereotyped as homophobic due to their also heavy religious influence.
Yeah.
Which kind of really, really fucking sucks. And, they're usually reduced to racial stereotypes even in the gay community. Like, due to, the Latino men as being hyper masculine, gay men of the same background are stereotyped as to be passionate and spontaneous lovers with an insatiable sexual appetite. And it's so fucked.
Can we please stop, equating people that don't look or behave the way you think they should with hypersexuality? They're not objects to be used. Please.
Well, I mean, you could bring
It's
up
crazy.
Santana Lopez from Glee.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as I said, I will say this for Glee. It gave a lot of recognition in that early 2000s. It really made putting gay people in TV okay, which is a weird thing to say, but it did. And unfortunately with Santana, they did really... Naya Rivera,
She was
rest
always
in peace.
characterized as a straight up bitch.
She was always characterized as a straight up bitch. She was always the hypersexual one of the coupling between her and Brittany. She was always the one that, even when they had broken up for a period of time, was uncomfortable that Brittany was bisexual and that Brittany did date men in the show as well. And they do end up getting together at the end. But it was one of those things where, unfortunately, Glee was very biphobic and it played very heavily into stereotypes. So while I can always respect from the lens of what it did for me as somebody that was learning about myself, what I do, the things I do enjoy about it, be able to enjoy it on that level, especially as I've gotten older. And I know the cast have noticed this too, as they've gotten older, the guy that played Artie and Jenna Ushkowitz, who is I cannot think of her character's name for the life of me, have actually started a podcast talking about these kind of problematic things that were in the show and how happy they are that storytelling has evolved, that these problematic things are no longer considered the baseline and being acceptable to try to tell these stories.
Yeah. I mean, the next grouping that I'm going to be talking about, Scarlett can speak on, is Asians.
A little bit. Listen, I'm Keanu Reeves Chinese, okay? Just my grandma.
That's fine.
Yeah.
But as a marginalized minority within gender and racial hierarchies, Asian members of the LGBT community experience intersectional invisibility. While this form of invisibility may offer a certain degree of protection from active prejudice, it also makes it difficult for the negative experiences of the Asian community, such as racism and discrimination, to be recognized. As a result, Asians are frequently excluded from discussions of race, which are generally framed around a white-black dichotomy and are marginalized with the mostly white LGBT community and movement at large.
Yeah, no, that is so true. And also, like, you know, just to speak on my own, my own experience, like when I came out of the closet originally, my grandmother, who is Chinese, she essentially told me to stay in the closet.
Really?
Like, you know, so the full story was, she told me this story about how when she was growing up in the city, how she had a neighbor, and this neighbor, he was a detective. He had a wife and 2 kids, a boy and a girl. Both of the kids were gay. And the wife refused to leave the house or the apartment because she was so ashamed that both of her kids were gay.
Emotional damage.
So in order to essentially, keep the family reputation, I should stay in the closet and not tell anyone else.
Wow.
So it actually comes down to it where, on the basis of sexual orientation and race, gay Asian men are categorized as either hypersexual or asexual. In particular, gay and bisexual Asian men are stereotyped as effeminate, submissive, and docile. Due to their perceived feminine qualities, Asian men are viewed as mere bodies to be dominated by other gay men, primarily white men.
Yeah.
The stereotype of the submissive and feminine Asian man is reinforced by additional stereotypes, such as an expectation that they will not only assume the passive role in sex or to, quote-unquote, be the bottom, but also that they will do this because of the myth or stereotype that they have small penises.
You know what I just realized that's kind of interesting? A lot of these stereotypes has to do with how, these stereotypes are specifically about gay men. And this kind of falls under, under the intersectionality as well. It has to do with how straight men treat women.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're basically, it's interesting how the way straight men treat women has kind of
bled over into our stuff.
No,
exactly. And bled
exactly.
over to our stuff and gay men.
Yep.
And I think also straight men are, I think, the other thing is straight men are so afraid of being treated the way that they
treat
women.
us.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. And I will say this, if you're looking for a really good representation for an Asian gay man in media, I would like to shout out Shadowhunters and Magnus Bane as a character. He was personally, for me, one of the first gay Asian men that I've ever seen in media, outwardly in media, but also he fights all of those stereotypes within his characterization.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
And because there's also a book series, and I do also enjoy the book series. It basically plays into this idea that he's a wizard, and the guy that he's in love with is the child of an angel.
He's a wizard. I drank the blood of some people and now I'm a wizard. I love that show.
It is really, it was so great to see how they adapted it for TV, and they just let them be in a nice relationship. And it was so great. And that is one of the things that, while there were a lot of problems with that show, that was the one perfect thing.
Well, it actually goes to the other side of the spectrum when it comes to Asian women.
Yeah, let's hear it.
So, Asian women who identify as lesbian or bisexual endure sexual fetishization
They always
by
do.
white men or women with quote-unquote yellow fever, which is a derogatory term with racist origins used to describe an Asian fetish.
Yep.
They are stereotyped as spicy or freaky, which contributes to Asian lesbians' frustration about not being taken seriously by society. Stereotypes of Asian women are either a dragon lady or a China doll, are dominant in mainstream media representation of Asian women, and butch Asian women are relatively invisible, giving way to more femme or feminized depictions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've unfortunately seen that in 4K.
What do you mean?
I've seen in 4K the fetishization of Asian women. It's absolutely awful.
It's disgusting.
It's so gross. I mean, that's why I love Everything Everywhere All at Once. It actually shows
Amazing movie.
shows a queer Asian woman.
Yeah.
And it does a really good job about kind of also talking about these stereotypes and tackling within like the traditional family models.
Yeah.
But I would like to, like, unfortunately, it is very prevalent both within the queer communities and straight communities.
Yeah, the stereotypes are there.
And I cannot tell you how many times I used to hear from a past friend the messages that she would get on Tinder that solely only had to do with the fact that she was a larger Asian woman.
Fuck out of here. Well, GLAAD is actually working to have fair depiction of the Asian community in media.
Good.
Yeah.
We need more.
Yeah, they're actually educating the public on language referring to Asians and Asian Americans, including refraining from the phases that are very Eurocentric, like the Orient, Far East, or Asiatic. Among other measures, GLAAD is also working to connect media networks with Asian and Pacific Islander LGBTQ leaders and organizations in order to create a more or less biased media coverage.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, fantastic, because did you know that the Japanese have a completely different section here?
Yeah, makes sense to me.
In Japan, adult lesbians are frequently portrayed as smokers in Japanese media. While Japanese culture heavily discourages interest in homosexual fiction matching the reader's sex, certain publications such as the manga magazine Yorihime or Hime have repeatedly reported their dominant consumers as the same gender as portrayed for most of their operational life. So even in Japan, it's like homosexuality does not exist at all. Like, no, you can't be homosexual. If you are, you smoke cigarettes, and that's bad.
Yeah.
You know, so
I mean, what I've heard, it has been getting better over there, though.
that's good.
Yeah.
I mean,
Like,
don't get me wrong,
oh my
but
God.
again, these fucking
I'm trying to remember
stereotypes.
I'm trying to remember the YouTuber that I watch sometimes. God, she's I think she's English. I think she's a lesbian and she has a wife and they have a kid. The woman who usually comes on screen, she's disabled and she has like red hair. She's like,
I don't know. I don't
vintagey.
watch that stuff.
I'm sorry. She just kind of pops up on my YouTube. I was trying to throw stuff out there, see if anyone remembers.
Sorry, I don't watch YouTube like that.
Me
Digi
neither.
Nan might know.
I don't know, cause like I usually see her in like reels and stuff, but I can't remember her name. But you know what? I'll try to like post one of her reels or something on the Feinics Gate page when this episode comes out. So that way, I can like link her content because she's really good. And what's really cool is she will actually like provide updates with queer news around the world. Like anytime, say like new legislation gets passed in a country that new legislation, or like say, hey, we're recognizing trans people now, or hey, gay marriage is legal here now.
That's awesome.
Yeah, her channel is so informative, and just I just wish I knew the name of it.
No, we'll post it in our socials.
We will.
But like honestly, these stereotypes, well, we said in the very beginning of the cast, they're there for a reason. But at the same time, also, you can't take these stereotypes and just assume it applies to everything.
Right.
And some of them are very dangerous.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think it's also different when you have like queer people making jokes about these stereotypes to kind of like riff on each other.
Yeah.
Because like, let's face it, we all do that with each other. Like we can like riff on each other. It's one thing like, it's one thing to like, poke fun at each other.
Yeah,
Well,
and make jokes within your own
friends-
community.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Like
friends
jokes within
making
the
fun
community.
of friends, but not
Yeah,
behind each
like,
other's backs.
Right. No, but like if I've seen like old BuzzFeed videos, which okay, BuzzFeed is BuzzFeed, whatever. But like it was kind of fun seeing like the gays and the lesbians like making videos together, and it's like joking around about like the party gay and the home buddy lesbian like stereotypes. How it's like, and at the end of it's like, hey, you should come to my house and we could just like hang out or whatever. Like the lesbians be like, hey, you should just come over and we could like hang out, and the gays being like, no, you should come out with us and party.
Yeah.
Like. Again, like when it's stuff like that, it's fine. Have fun with it. But then when it's like,
If you're going to sit there and judge me for being bisexual and automatically think that I can't be in a serious relationship, that I'm not monogamous, that I suck at sex, or I'm greedy,
right?
because I can't choose between men, women, or whatever.
And if you're actively using these stereotypes to hurt people,
Ugh. Kill yourself.
No, exactly.
that's a problem.
That's the biggest issue, is the use of stereotypes.
Emotional damage.
In my opinion, the biggest use of these stereotypes, unfortunately, is to mitigate the humanity of the people attached.
Yeah.
And so much of it, that's kind of like we were talking about Seth MacFarlane actually about this. And what I like about him is he punches up. So he uses the stereotypes in American Dad to make fun of how unrealistic they are. And how
Seth MacFarlane, this is your biggest fan.
please come on the podcast.
Join us.
Sponsor us.
Become one of us.
You know, he honestly went, and like when you see things that are from his genuine writing, like going in and doing the things he did on Orville, which were very heavily queer centric, very queer positive, wonderful show. I wish more people watched it. It really sits with you that, yeah, his punch up humor was meant to make fun of the people that were sitting there and watching and going, yeah, that sounds about right to me. Because using anything to dehumanize anyone is disgusting, but especially using stereotypes as an excuse to dehumanize somebody
So disgusting.
is just like abhorrent.
No, it's absolutely valid. Everything that you just said, 100%. 100%. Because, dead ass, if you're going to sit there and judge anyone based on who they love, who they want to have sex with, because remember, the two are not mutually exclusive.
Exactly.
Then you have a bigger problem. And you should probably look in a mirror and start reflecting on your own things.
Yeah, and
Exactly.
probably speak to a therapist if you can.
If you can.
Because you may have a lot of internalized shit going on. And that's kind of why when I got into my long-term relationship with my partner, I made it very clear. I was like, I am a bisexual woman. I am going to talk as a bisexual woman. I am not going to hide the fact that I'm queer. I'm not going to not go to queer spaces because you are a cis heterosexual man. That's not going to happen. And that was a huge cornerstone of our relationship in terms of something that I was like, look, I know that I might not seem to be the person that's supposed to fit A, B, and C mold, but if you really want to be with me, then you need to accept the fact that just because I'm with you doesn't make me any less queer.
If you want to be my lover, you got to accept I'm queer.
And honestly, it really helped our relationship a lot because if I didn't set that boundary right away, because he comes from kind of like the frat guy background.
Yeah, and we don't hate him for that.
No, but I feel like unfortunately that could have caused issues.
Yeah.
So I think another thing is you, especially for other folks that are bi and in these straight passing relationships, it's part of your identity. It's okay to assert to your partner that you are not going to make yourself small to fit how other people perceive you.
Right.
It's true.
That's so important. Like, you know, I was very, upfront with Cam. Like, listen, I am a queer woman. And granted, when I told him that, his first reaction was like, oh, you like girls? Me too. High five. and then we proceeded to talk about women.
Yeah, I mean, fair. I mean, me and my
We
partner.
were not dating at that point yet. We were just friends.
I told
That's okay.
I told Digi Nan, like, yo, this is who I am. If you don't like it, do not be with me. And it also came down to like the whole polyamory thing.
Right.
Like I let him know from the very beginning, like, yo, this is what you're getting. You are getting a big old ball of bisexual polyamorous drama. So if you don't mind that, cool. If you have an issue, get the fuck out now.
Yeah.
That was almost a decade ago.
Wow.
Yeah. Yup. Next year, 10 years. Jesus. I'm old. Ugh. But honestly, again, the color wheel is saying we don't say these things to cause drama, to draw the line, to be woke. We don't do that. We are informing you. We've done research. We've read books. We've watched movies, our own personal experiences. All of that plays a factor in everything that we talked about today. This is not anything new. This is a subject that is very, very important to us because it is things we've been through, things that we've known other people to have gone through.
Yeah.
And our voices are just as important as the voices that you're not hearing. Maybe those voices that we're not hearing even more so.
Yeah.
Agreed.
We're just giving a mic to hopefully open up a proper discourse and allow people that are not able to speak to come forward.
Yeah.
So please, if anything we said here tonight offended you, as I said in the beginning, too bad, so sad. Here's a tissue. Bye. Like, that's it. That's it. The cast is done. We are done.
Yeah.
Okay. Happy Gay Pride Month, all of my LGBTQ
Hooray.
people. Like, fuck this shit. We out. Love you. Okay, bye.
Bye. Be perceived.